beautiful part about my journey with addiction is the fact that God absolutely met me when I asked him to. When I opened my life back up to him in a way where I was like, this is way bigger than I am. I can't do this. I can't operate the way that I have been alone anymore. It was never anything that I ever wanted to be a part of. Drugs were not a major issue for me in my entire life. Fast forward to my 30s, I began to have a lot of back pain. Talking to dad, a bad back is just something that's in our family type of a thing. And so, I went to the doctor, had it checked out, and come to find out I had broken my back at some point in my earlier life. They guesstimated in my 20s. At the same time, I'm dealing with this kind of a lineage of bad backs that, my dad's entire family had all had the same back surgery. So by the time I get in front of my doctor, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And so I was pretty adamant about having my back surgery earlier than later. I wanted to be able to recover as best as I could. And so over the course of that, pain management became a conversation. Like I said, I was against the whole idea of drugs. And, by the time it became an issue with me, I had already seen people that were having issues with some kind of addiction to opiates, including members of my own family. And so it was just something I decided I didn't want to do. As things got worse, my doctor at the time suggested that I try upping my pain management to help me get through my week. My week at that time was extremely active. First in the church, last to leave, have services to prepare for, got to get everything ready, playing music, got my guitar, there was just a lot that my back had to go through in a day. And my doctor acknowledged that. And so he began to suggest that I, try to manage my pain a little bit better. I guess I do need to, because it hurts a lot. One pill led to another pill and another pill. It took me a long time to actually have it sink its hooks in me, but it did. I still remember there was a day I was sitting there painting my daughter's room, and there was just a lot going on in my life. This was getting close to when I really kind of just broke in regards to my life with God and religion and all of it. I was sitting there, and I remember I had just kind of been in the bathroom taking my normal pain medicine, and I was just like, I'm just gonna take 2 instead of 1. I'm just gonna take 2. And sure enough, not long later, and I just had this wave go over me that was like, oh, so this will take away more than my back pain. Like, this will take away all the pain. And so, over the course of the next 3 years, essentially, I entered this vicious cycle of, I was a pastor, so I was too good to buy them on the street, so I'll just take all of them up front and white knuckle it until I can get my refill. Before you know it, prescriptions increase, and I was on about 500 pills a month. Not all pain pills, but, enough of them were. And anything that had anything to do with pain, I would take in the first 2 weeks of the month. And then I would just, go through essentially a detox for the second half of the month. At the end of it, I found myself basically staring myself in the face. I don't know if you've ever looked at yourself in the mirror for any length of time, but I saw myself. Not only who I had created myself to be, but also who I had allowed other people around me to create me to be. And there was just this massive sense of loss, because never in a million years did I think that I would be a guy that would get wrapped up in all this. Not me. But I did. And so I ended up walking into my childhood doctor's office, and I was just like, I think I'm in trouble. By this time, I had already started to go to therapy a little bit. Didn't really go as much as I probably needed to, but enough to know that there's some stuff cooking upstairs, you know. And so I walked into my doctor's office, and I was like, I think I'm in trouble. And by that time, he had seen my Casper report. He said, yeah, I'd say you are. He caught me, coming back. And so when I left him, I had nothing. I wasn't doing anything. And then when I come back, I'm on 500 pills a month. It's like, yeah, I think you are in trouble. And so, God put him in my life at the right time. And before too long, it was a thing in my past. And I believe that this stuff can actually be defeated. It takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of discomfort. You have to get used to that. But as long as you stay focused on what your agenda is, which is ultimately loving yourself and loving the people that love you, it gets a lot easier. Thank God, the bulk of my addiction journey and my recovery, the bulk of it was done by the time I had my back surgery. By the time I had my back surgery, I was on a new regimen. I no longer was tied to addiction the way that I was. I no longer was waking up every single morning, just thinking about the next pill that I could get. I found myself on a regimen with my new doctor. Over the course of time, I maintained what my actual script should be instead of taking it all in 2 weeks. Not only that, we dropped it significantly. And so by the time I had my back surgery, I was already through this cycle of opiate abuse. I now saw it as a tool. It was now I was okay. I would take what I needed to take to get through my back surgery, and after that, I would be done. And ultimately, that's what happened. I was able to wean myself off enough to where when I was ready to stop, I just stopped. There was nothing to it. I don't want to say there was nothing to it. No, I will say there was nothing to it. It was just, I'm not going to go get it refilled. That's literally what it was. It was like, okay, I think I'm at a point now to where my body is strong enough. I was doing things actively. I was trying to run a lot more. I was doing a lot of core work by that time. I had saw the value in actually taking care of my body instead of letting medicine just numb it. So my recovery journey really was even before my back surgery. Even though I was on opiates to manage that pain, by the time it was time to be done with it, it was far easier to be done with it than it was when I had to be done with it, where I was going to die.